Imagine you are a U.S. Air Force pilot on a routine mission over Texas when a strange amber light appears in the sky. It moves with impossible speed, then makes a sharp 90-degree turn, something no known aircraft can do. You watch as it descends and crashes near the Mexican border. What would you do if you witnessed something that defied all logic? Driven by curiosity, you follow it down. From above, you see wreckage scattered across the desert like nothing you've ever seen. Days later, you return to investigate on foot. But when you arrive, armed Mexican military personnel have already sealed the area. They stop you from getting closer. What crashed in that remote location? And why was it guarded so quickly? Keep watching because in this video, we reveal two shocking incidents that will leave you shocked. Let's start with the first story.
There was one facility at Norton Air Force Base that was close hold. Not even the wing commander there could know what was going on. And during that time period, throughout my career, it was always rumored by the pilots that that was a cover for, in fact, a location of one UFO craft. And the reason for that location was folks that could come out, land at Norton, play golf, be part of a golf tournament, and so forth, and during that process could go by the facility and actually see the UFO.
It is a story of an ex-USAF pilot who says he chased a UFO across Texas and watched it crash on the Texas-Mexico border near Del Rio, Texas. He wasn't out looking for anything unusual that day. It started like any other mission. The sky was clear, and the flight felt routine. He was in communication with a B-47 crew, handling his role as expected. Nothing stood out at first. Then, suddenly, something caught his eye. There was a bright light in the distance. At first, he thought it might be a star. Pilots often see bright points in the sky, and sometimes they can look closer than they really are. But this was different. The light was stronger than any star he had seen, and it didn't look fixed in one place. It had a slight amber color mixed into it, which made it stand out even more. He mentioned it over the radio, asking if the B-47 pilot could see it too. The response came back quickly. Yes, they saw it as well. That changed everything. Now it wasn't just a personal observation. Two trained pilots were looking at the same object. Both knew how to identify aircraft, satellites, and natural objects. This didn't match any of those. As they watched, the object appeared to be moving straight toward them. It wasn't blinking like a plane. It wasn't drifting like a balloon. It had a steady path and a brightness that made it impossible to ignore. The pilot tried to judge its size, but that's never easy in the air. Something far away can look small, and something closer can look bigger than it really is. He guessed it could be dozens of miles out, maybe even 40 or 80 miles away. There was no way to be sure. Then something happened that made both pilots stop and focus completely. The object made a sharp 90-degree turn. It didn't curve slowly. It didn't bank like a normal aircraft. It changed direction instantly, like it was following a completely different set of rules. Right after that turn, it started dropping in altitude. The pilot pointed it out again, making sure the other crew was still seeing the same thing. They confirmed it. At that moment, curiosity took over. He didn't want to just watch it disappear. He wanted to know where it was going. He wanted to see what it was. He told the B-47 pilot that he wanted to follow it and see where it would come down. The other pilot told him to hold on and contacted headquarters for permission. A short wait followed. Then the answer came back. He was cleared to go. They would arrange someone to cover his position. He was free to change course and investigate. Without wasting time, he turned his aircraft and headed toward where the object seemed to be going. As he got closer, he kept scanning the ground, trying to figure out where it might land. What he saw next didn't look normal at all. The object appeared to hit the ground, but not in a straight crash. It looked like it struck the surface and then bounced forward. He compared it to throwing a ball. It hits once, then jumps ahead before stopping. There were two main points he noticed: the first impact area, and then another spot further ahead, maybe around 200 feet away, where more debris seemed to be scattered. The wreckage didn't look like any aircraft he had ever seen. Instead of a single broken structure, it looked like something had been torn into many small pieces and spread across the area. He described it as if a large object had been cut up and thrown around. There was no clear shape left behind, just fragments. From above, he focused on how the ground and vegetation looked. He was trying to understand the effect of the crash. There were signs of disturbance, but nothing that clearly explained what had hit the ground. He also started thinking about getting a closer look. He wondered if he could land a smaller plane nearby. If there was a spot that didn't need much space, he could go down and walk the area himself. The idea stayed in his mind as he finished observing from the air. After some time, he decided to head back. As he flew away, he stayed in contact with the B-47 crew. They talked about what he had seen. The other pilot asked him a simple question. Could he tell what it was? His answer was just as simple. No, he couldn't identify it. It didn't match anything he knew. The movement, the crash pattern, the debris, it all felt wrong compared to normal aircraft behavior. He returned to his duties, but the event stayed in his thoughts. It wasn't something easy to forget. Later on, he ended up heading toward El Paso as part of another assignment. The mission continued, but his mind kept going back to what he had seen near the border. At some point, he decided to go back. This time, he wanted to see the crash site from the ground. He got access to a small aircraft. It was a light plane, not built for speed, but good enough to get him close. He flew toward the same area and managed to land near where the object had come down. Being on the ground changed everything. From the air, things can look distant and unclear. But now, he could see the area up close. The itiyon, scattered debris, the marks on the ground, the way the land looked disturbed. It all felt more real. But he wasn't alone. Not long after arriving, he noticed people in the area. Mexican guards were present, wearing uniforms. They appeared to be military personnel. That raised questions right away. If this was just a normal crash, why was the area already being guarded? He and the others with him tried to move closer to the main crash site. They wanted to examine it properly, but the guards stopped them. They were not allowed to go all the way in. That made the situation even more serious. While they were still there, more activity began to build up. Vehicles started arriving from different directions. It wasn't slow or casual. It felt organized. The pilot realized that whatever had crashed there was being taken seriously. At that point, he started thinking about his own position. He was near the border, and technically on the Mexican side. Staying there too long could create problems. He didn't want to get caught in a situation where he had to explain why he was there, especially with military personnel around. So he made a decision. He left. He got back into his aircraft and flew out of the area before things could get more complicated. Even after leaving, the memory stayed with him. He had spent years around aircraft. He understood how planes behaved, how they moved, and what crashes looked like. This didn't match any of that. The object moved in a way that didn't make sense. The sudden turn, the drop in altitude, the way it seemed to bounce on impact, it all felt different. The wreckage didn't help either. It didn't look like a known aircraft. There was no clear structure, no recognizable parts. And then there was the military presence. The speed at which guards appeared, the way access was restricted, and the arrival of vehicles from multiple directions all suggested that something unusual had happened. In the end, he was left without answers. Now let's turn to another story.
The storyline basically is that there's a lot of work going on in the aerospace industry that would indicate that we have black projects that have gone even darker.
In 1988, aerospace designer Brad Sorensen attended an air show at Norton Air Force Base. These shows were where aerospace companies and military contractors showed off their latest technology to top officials. Brad was there to network and hopefully find new clients. At some point, he got separated from his group, joined another, and ended up in a large hangar watching a presentation by a 3-star general. At first, it seemed like a typical rundown of secret aircraft, so Brad assumed he was in the right place. Then the general signaled someone, a huge curtain was pulled back, and 3 aircraft were revealed that no one expected.
What happened? He says, well, this thing, was flat on the bottom, sloping sides, a little ledge around there, and then a dome on the top with these little glass things on top. Looked like there was a camera under each one. I've seen copies of inter-office correspondence among defense contractors that openly stated that they felt the technology was a fundamental enabling technology, that it had all kinds of different defense applications, but it also had a lot of serious civilian applications that would be beneficial to humanity as a whole, to the environment. It seems obvious that someone, perhaps a group, maybe some kind of a rogue civilization within our society, has captured the technology. They're exploiting it for their own aims, for their own interests, whatever those might be. There's not a sliver of doubt in my mind that it exists.
Later, Brad's colleague, fellow aerospace designer Mark McCandlish, called to ask how the air show went. Brad was silent for a long time. When Mark asked what was wrong, Brad sounded scared and depressed. He said, "I think I saw something I wasn't supposed to see." Mark was confused. Both men had top-secret clearances and worked for major defense companies. As designers and illustrators, they often learned about experimental aircraft before they were even built. So what could be more secret than that? Brad explained, after the presentation, they pulled back the curtain to reveal 3 flying saucers. They were completely silent, hovering a few feet off the ground. Mark asked for details. Brad said they looked like something from the 1950s, flat on the bottom, sloped sides, with a dome on top. On the dome were small bubbles that appeared to contain cameras. The smallest saucer was about 24 feet across, the next about 60 feet, and the largest about 120 feet wide. The general called them ARVs, or Alien Reproduction Vehicles. Their nickname was flux liners. In electromagnetism, electric flux measures an electric field through a surface, so the name hinted at how they worked. Next to the smallest saucer was a TV showing test flights. The video showed a saucer hovering silently over a dry lake bed, then making bouncing maneuvers and finally shooting straight up like a bullet. The audience was stunned. Mark asked if they explained how it could move like that. Brad said he was surprised by how simple the mechanics were. Mark was shocked. "You got to see inside?" Brad said that next to the craft was a large easel describing the internal components, and the smallest saucer had side panels removed so visitors could see inside completely. Brad saw the engine, life support, crew area with jump seats, and steering mechanisms. Mark, also a designer, asked if Brad could remember specifics so he could draw a diagram. Brad said he could, but he wasn't going to discuss it over the phone. They met for lunch the next day. Both men were trained to pay close attention to detail. The first thing Brad noted was that the ARVs looked worn, chipped paint, fingerprints, smudges, suggesting the military had them for a long time. Brad sketched the interior. The top dome was actually half a sphere, with the crew seats inside. The flat bottom was a large capacitor array over a foot thick. Above it were oxygen tanks for the crew. Then Brad revealed two bombshells from the general's presentation. One, the saucer could travel faster than light. Two, it used zero-point energy. Zero-point energy is the lowest possible energy a quantum system can have. In classical physics, empty space is just empty. But in quantum physics, no space is truly empty. There are fluctuating fields and particles that wink in and out of existence. This requires energy that exists everywhere, even in the vacuum of space. Physicists John Wheeler and Richard Feynman calculated that the zero-point energy in the volume of a coffee cup is enough to boil and evaporate all the oceans on Earth. Mark used his design skills to turn Brad's rough sketch into a scaled technical blueprint of a working flying saucer. Over the next few years, he refined his drawing after speaking with other eyewitnesses. Because more people had seen it, Mark started researching and found others who had seen the ARV, worked on it, or even flew it. In the early 1990s, he met Kent Seelan at an air show. Kent was a crew chief at Edwards Air Force Base. One day, he passed a hangar with doors slightly open, looked inside, and saw a flying saucer hovering silently. Without any prompting, Kent described the ARV exactly as Brad had. Flat bottom, domed roof, with smaller domes holding cameras. As the shock wore off, a guard put a gun in his face, forced him to the ground, and interrogated him for 18 hours. This happened in 1973, almost 20 years earlier. Later, Mark spoke with a military colonel who confirmed there was a closely guarded facility at Norton Air Force Base where one of these craft was kept. The rumor among pilots was that it was a cover for housing a UFO. The more Mark asked, the more people he found who knew about the ARV project. A retired pilot showed him photos of a similar craft taken in 1967. The design was nearly the same, except the camera bubbles were larger, likely because cameras had gotten smaller by 1988. Mark noted that while UFO shapes vary, the general design is consistent, round with a flat bottom, angled edges, and an upper compartment. Some photos go back to 1950, so these vehicles have been around for at least 75 years. To understand the propulsion, Mark spoke with UFO abductees. Most didn't see the engine, but one woman remembered a central column filled with rapidly spinning silver liquid, with a wheel or device spinning the opposite direction. This matched crash reports, like Roswell, and aligned with dozens of patents for anti-gravity devices using electricity, many building on Nikola Tesla's work. From these accounts, Mark pieced together how the ARV works. The circular base is a huge Tesla coil, multiple metal layers stacked with small gaps, acting as a capacitor to store and redirect massive electricity, possibly over 1 million volts. This creates a powerful electromagnetic field. The pilot manipulates this field for thrust. The central column contains two counter-rotating cylinders of liquid mercury. The upper platform is another capacitor, working with the lower one for multidirectional movement. Controls are simple. A lever in the right hand controls electricity output. A trackball in the left sends power in any direction. The craft has no windows. Instead, it uses external cameras feeding 3D video to the pilot's eyes, like a VR headset. So how does it go faster than light? Physicists like Miguel Alcubierre have shown that a craft using zero-point energy could theoretically reduce its mass and compress space-time ahead of it while expanding it behind. This creates a warp bubble that allows extreme speeds without violating physics. Importantly, inside the bubble, the pilot feels no acceleration, no matter how sharp the turn or how fast the speed. This explains the impossible maneuvers UFOs are known for. The term alien reproduction vehicle means it's based on the study of extraterrestrial craft, but it is manufactured by humans. This suggests that we already have the ability to access zero-point energy, an ambient field from which all matter and energy flows, and could use it to power the planet without fossil fuels or pollution. Most of this information comes from a documentary by filmmaker James Allen called 0 Point, the story of Mark McCandlish and the Flux liner. While we have compelling eyewitness testimony from multiple military and aerospace sources, we still lack physical proof. The science behind 0-point energy is debated, but the math works, and it remains a fascinating possibility. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you never miss the next story. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.